This is super interesting and not altogether surprising. The Daily Beast has a fascinating piece, somewhat lengthy, not huge, but take you a few minutes to read, about how Rudy Giuliani seems to have the walls closing in around him in terms of these investigations that are going on. And Donald Trump seems to have abandoned him completely, which is absolutely on brand for Donald Trump. This is a piece in the Daily Beast, which we will link to, written by Adam Ronsley and Azawin Subsang, which writes, in the weeks since the feds raided Rudy Giuliani's apartment and office in late April, close allies have tried to ferry a slew of emergency requests to former President Donald Trump and his advisors. But according to three people familiar with the matter, Trump and his legal advisors and confidants have been hesitant about swooping in to help the embattled Giuliani, who for years worked as Trump's personal attorney, political advisor, and attack dog. Understand what's going on. Rudy's in trouble. The walls are closing in around Rudy. They raided his home. They raided his office. It's looking really bad for Rudy. And Rudy is sending these massive dumps, for lack of a better term, of requests to Trump and his advisors for help, for interference, for whatever, some kind of intervention. And Trump is just ignoring it. The Daily Beast piece goes on to say, Team Trump's reluctance to intervene comes at a time when federal investigators have ramped up their probe into whether Giuliani's Ukraine-related work during the Trump era amounted to an unregistered and illegal lobbying operation on behalf of foreign figures. So far, no charges have been brought. Trump's silence has led to simmering frustrations among members of Giuliani's inner orbit, who privately alleged that the ex-president's team is working to convince him to hang Giuliani out to dry in his hour of need. That's another level, and that would be absolutely compelling. We've been keeping an eye, but not talking too much about Donald Trump's blogs on his website. And so far, he has not come to the defense of Rudy Giuliani, but he's also not hung Rudy Giuliani out to dry. I think that if this escalates and it gets to the point where it's clear Rudy is going to be charged, I do think Trump will publicly abandon Rudy and say he was off script. He was doing his own thing. He was not representing me. One person close to Giuliani said last week, quote, it's a question now of whether or not Trump wants to leave Rudy to fend for himself or if they're going to take a stand against this. Right now, we don't know. Among the pleas, like what is Rudy asking for? Among the pleas have been for Trump to issue a strong verbal or written statement saying Giuliani's work during the Trump-Ukraine saga was done on behalf of Trump. There's no way in hell Trump says that, because Trump needs to leave the possibility, if Rudy gets charged, of saying the Ukraine stuff had nothing to do with me. I had a perfect phone call and that's it. Whatever Rudy was doing, I don't know about. The other asks have been that Trump sign on to a legal motion to have federal investigators throw out any seized communications that Rudy and his lawyers are arguing are covered by attorney-client privilege. And further, there have been requests that Trump and his team financially help Rudy in his legal defense. Apparently, Rudy's legal expenses are going absolutely crazy. Now, that's what the Rudy people want Trump to do. On the other hand, and this is a really great piece that looks at both sides of this in the Daily Beast, two people close to Trump, they write, say they have urged Trump to lay low and refrain from making too many statements one way or the other. These people have told Trump it's unclear what the feds have, and anything Trump says could backfire on him and on Giuliani. That is exactly why Trump would never come out and say, Rudy was working on behalf of me, because they don't know what they have on Rudy yet. And if it's really bad, if they have Rudy dead to rights, Trump now saying everything Rudy did, he did it for me, it implicates Donald Trump. So this shouldn't surprise anybody who understands how Donald Trump operates. Look at Trump with his voters. Trump defends them. They're beautiful people. There's my African American, and the Hispanics love me, and the suburban women. These are all great people, as long as they're useful to him. But as soon as they're not, like, for example, on January 6th, Trump turned on the TV and he saw the rioters who are all Trumpists. And he said, these people look kind of low class. They're making me look bad. And then he abandons them. Trump grifting, what was it, 70 million from his supporters for legal battles after the November election that were never going to go anywhere. Trump scamming his supporters, saying, I will fight this and I will audit that and do a recount here. And more than half the money went just to pay off Trump's campaign debt. Why? Because at that point, the election was over. The only way that these people were useful to Trump was trying to grift some money out of them. And it's the same way with Trump's lawyers and cronies. He abandoned Michael Cohen. And when Trump has political allies, he loves them while they're allies. As soon as they say something even mildly critical, Trump abandons them. So the one thing about this that is predictable and on brand is Trump's not going to come to anyone's defense unless it's useful to him. And right now coming out and saying, Rudy did great work and it was all for me, that possibly implicates Donald Trump. They don't know how bad Rudy is in trouble at this point in time. One other interesting aspect from this Daily Beast article, which says, quote, in recent weeks, Trump himself has argued behind closed doors that he wouldn't want to say Giuliani was doing all of the Ukraine work, which included a transatlantic dirt digging expedition on the Biden family, on Trump's behalf. Trump's reasoning is based on the ex-president's insistence that he didn't always know what Giuliani was doing during the Ukraine effort or concocting with his Ukrainian pals, several of whom Trump has privately dinged as idiots. So apparently this is something Trump is saying privately. It's actually possible that that is to some degree true, but that doesn't tell us Trump didn't have a sense of what was going on. Very often, someone in a role as powerful as president of the United States would be deliberately kept out of the loop as to the specifics of what his henchmen are doing. And when you're in that position, you know you're being kept out of the loop. Like, in other words, you know it's a known unknown. You know you're not being told exactly what Rudy's up to. You know the gist of it, but you're not being told the specifics in order to keep you potentially out of trouble if something exactly like this would happen. So the last thing anyone would do in this situation is to say, I knew everything he was doing and he was doing it all for me. Now, one last thing here, okay, that this goes back to Trump's narcissism. Some people are saying, obviously, Trump isn't going to help someone who has mountains of dirt on him because Trump's worried it will come back on him. But isn't there a risk that Rudy, if Trump doesn't help him, will release all the dirt he has on Trump? Trump doesn't think this way. Trump is a narcissist. Trump cannot conceive of anybody turning on him in that way. If they did, so what? He's Donald Trump. It's not like anything bad can happen. Anything Donald Trump does in his mind is legal and good because it's something he did, and that would never happen. So I know you and I might say, you know, it's a double-edged sword because on the one hand, Trump doesn't want to defend Giuliani because that could come back to bite him. On the other hand, if Trump doesn't, Rudy could release whatever dirt he has on Trump. Trump, the narcissist, doesn't think the dirt Rudy has could really damage him in a serious way. That's what you have to remember about how the narcissist thinks. So we'll see what happens. Let me know if you think there are charges forthcoming for Rudy. I think I just don't know. And it's not because I don't think Rudy did some horrible things. It's similar to Gates. We have a two-tier justice system in this country. We know that people in positions of power often are not subject to the same circumstances that other people are. So I genuinely don't know what to expect in terms of charges against Rudy, but let me know your thoughts.